Bread baking test.
Plant is now pruning.
Nothing fancy.
Good morning. Welcome back to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. I'm making bread this morning, and I've had something on my mind the last couple of days, and I thought I'd share it with you guys, just for a little bit of encouragement. So I've been making homemade bread on my homestead for probably 4 years at this point. It hasn't always been sourdough. I had a bread machine for a long time, and for a little while I alternated between handmade sourdough bread and the bread machine, just depending on how busy I was. You know, everything that's going on here on the homestead, it can be a lot to try to keep up with, especially remembering to feed a sourdough. Now I've gotten better at it, and I've kept this sourdough alive for a couple years, and when I felt like I had a good handle on it, I made a couple of videos on how to make bread. Now, some of you might have this experience as well. I have seen it in quite a few areas of my life where sometimes, and I don't know why this is, but sometimes the biggest critics are the people who are also passionate about that thing. So as an example, a lot of people have a fear of like going to the gym because there's people there who kind of are more fit, if that makes sense. They know more of what they're doing. They have the techniques down. The people who are not that fit or don't know everything that's going on might feel intimidated, like they're going to be judged or something like that. So I have a video where I was making bread, and I made this bread according to the directions. I put the bread together exactly as I was taught in the book that I bought. I assumed, and I think I assumed decently correctly. Now I know things have changed a little bit with publishing recently, but if someone has published a book, they probably know what they're talking about, right? This is the book that I bought to learn about sourdough, and the way that I folded my bread before I put it in the pan was how the book said to do it. And so that's what I showed on video, and the video had been up for probably a year or more before I got some ridicule on the way that I was folding the bread. Clearly I had been doing it all wrong. I should have tri-folded it first and then rolled it. They said something like, you know, this is the wrong way to do it. You need to be tri-folding it first and then rolling it up. And the tone of the comment really was condescending. And honestly, that's unnecessary, but especially if you know better and something is your passion, I feel like you would want that passion to be able to catch in other people, and you treat them a little bit better with your encouragement of maybe a different way to do it. But also, I mean, if the entire video was watched, there was a beautiful loaf of bread at the end that I was clearly happy about, that sliced up great and tasted wonderful. And I think that that's the important part. Like, the process on how to get there can vary, but the end result of a nice loaf of bread and a happy baker, that's what matters. There are a lot of baking purists out there on the internet. I have come across them several times, and where there's some things that it's probably appropriate to be a little bit more exact, there's absolutely more wiggle room than you think. So anyways, right here, let me get this guy out of the way. This is how I've been doing it forever. Rolling it up like this first, kind of tucking the ends under, almost like a little rainbow, and then pulling it towards me, kind of tucking everything in like this. This is how I learned out of that book, but apparently I'm wrong. So I figured we would fold up this one the way that the person said to, the other person said to, and see if it really matters, because I'm betting that it doesn't. Now, when I get comments like that, I don't necessarily take them personally. I grew up in the state of Maine, and I actually left the state of Maine by choice due to mostly just bullying. I went to a school where the kids were just absolutely ruthless with their bullying, and I had enough of it and decided that I wanted to try again somewhere else. And so I feel like I've had a lifetime of bullying happen to me already, so stuff like that, it really just kind of rolls off of my back. But I always think about my viewers, everyone who's brand new to the thing that I'm trying to show. If they're reading the comments, what are they gonna think and how are they gonna feel for themselves? So don't worry, I got you. We're gonna see if it really matters how you fold your bread. I'm sure there's a wrong way to do it, but I know that there's a couple right ways. So I've flattened it out like I did the other one, and we're gonna do what's called a tri-fold. So I folded one side over, And fold the other side over. This is like a pamphlet, if you will. And who knows, I'm probably gonna do this wrong. I was told I had to try fold it first, so here we go. And see, I'm kind of defaulting into what I know by tucking the end under and pulling towards me. We'll see. How are we gonna mark this? This is the one that I did my way. Something hilarious that I'm sure several of you caught that I didn't until just now. I just wanted to like review the tri-fold method on folding bread. I totally did it wrong, but I think that this is actually going to be a really good lesson because you can see that it actually probably doesn't matter too much. And I am going to take this little plastic thing off. This is the bread that folded the way that I normally do, and this is folded a little bit different way. I will say it does look like it's filling the pan a little bit differently. So this is the way that I normally fold it. And then that is the modified tri-fold, we'll call it. It is filling the pan a little bit better. So who knows, we may come up with something that we like better. The point is, when we have a passion about something, I think it's important that we understand that there's people out there who are learning, even if they make a YouTube video. You can make a YouTube video no matter who you are. You don't have to be an expert in order to be able to make a good YouTube video that people want to watch. But yeah, there's a kindness in teaching your passion and a patience that comes with it. So I think that we should just all be kind because there's more than one way to do this the right way. We're gonna prove that today. So I'm just scoring down the middle. This is gonna vent the steam out of the center of the bread, basically controlling where the bread will break. If I didn't put this down the middle, it would probably puff up and then crack on the side, and then my sandwiches would be just kind of wonky. It would be good, but just a little less even. This thing that I tied on here, that's wool, and wool can handle pretty high temperatures. Actually, when we cook chicken, which isn't a lot, but when I cook chicken, I will truss the chickens using the wool, and it works well. Alrighty, let's put these in and see how they turn out. Now, in all fairness, I didn't do the tri-fold method correctly. Let me turn this on. Yeah, this is how I normally make my bread. Beautiful loaf. And then this one rose pretty funny. I know it's gonna be good though. And that's the thing. It doesn't have to be executed perfectly to be delicious and to be a learning experience. A lot of times with these kinds of things, you're not perfect at it in your very first go, maybe not even your second go. It can take a long time to get used to the routine of making bread or doing a lot of these kind of more hands-on things. So that's a hurdle to get over. But then also just kind of perfecting the feel for it and perfecting your method is also part of the process. It takes time. Let's scoot this one back so we can see the other one. Woo. All right, these guys have had a chance to cool a little bit. They are still somewhat warm. Let's cut into them and see if they're any good. I'm sure they are. So here's our wonky one. See? Did it wrong? Didn't matter. Whew. Still warm and even cuts thinly quite well. Of course, it smells lovely. Yes, I cut the bread in the middle. It annoys my husband as well. Normally when I make bread, what I like to do is cut the middle out for myself. It's kind of like a bread baking tax. So push the middle out like that, which that also looks beautiful as expected. And see what that center cut did? It just made this lovely, beautiful classic shape. And then I can butt the end up together like that and help preserve it. This is how it just sits on the counter on the first day, and then I will bag it up this evening. But yeah, it worked out just fine, even though I did it wrong 2 times. 2 different ways of doing it wrong. Made some pretty good bread. Alrighty, so one of the, ooh, did I scare you guys? I guess I don't normally talk while I'm in here. One of the things that I've got to do today, these bunnies really need to go into the grow out cages. They've been weaned from their mom for a little while, and there's a bunch of them in here. Really, this is too much bunny for this little space, so we've got to get you guys separated. we have kind of a situation with our grow out cages where it turns out a couple of them, quite a few of them, I've got 6 grow out cages, 4 of them need new bottoms. But today Levi processed the grow out rabbits that I did have out there, so these guys can go ahead and fill those cages. They're spraying the field across the street tonight. They've grown corn over there this year. I don't know what they could be spraying this time of year. It might be Roundup. Good thing is the breeze is moving in such a way where we're not gonna get overspray. And they've also followed the rules on the time of day that they should be spraying. They need to be doing it later on in the evening when a lot of pollinators are not out, and that's good. I like to see them following the rules. Here are our grow out cages. Only 2 of them have a good enough bottom to grow bunnies out in right now. And sometimes, depending on the size of the litter, I won't separate them between male and female. These bunnies are what we call our pretty bunnies. They're just a mixed breed and they take a little bit longer to grow out. So I like to separate them just so we don't have any unintentional breeding happening before they're of size for butchering. Did you catch my cat? Okay. Maybe don't set up the trap over here. Can you let him out?
I'm so sorry, buddy.
Did you bait it with strawberries?
Yes. Listen, are you rotten ones?
All right, Mozzie, come out, baby.
Look. Look, go that way. Come saw a trail there. And good boy. What animal it was? I guess it was Mozzie.
Yeah, the trail was probably the cat. Oh, he's scared now. Go up the tree, buddy. Anyway, especially if I'm trying to sell breeding pairs or breeding trios, I like to know which letter is which so that I can make the best matches and not have any like inbreeding, anybody who's related. So I'll be separating them into male and female. And I'm not exactly gonna show you how to tell the difference in this video, but if you're interested and wanna know more about how to tell the difference, I do have a video on that and I'll link it down below. Basically, one's got a burrito, one's got a taco. Tacos go here, burritos go here. Burrito! Burrito! If you remember, we had a rabbit give birth to 13 babies. 11 ended up living, and that's who these are. They've gotten big, haven't they? Lots of boys. There's another female. There was a pretty even split. 5 girls and 6 boys.
Yeah?
Can you make sure these bunnies have food?
Yeah.
Thanks.
So, oh my gosh, you're so cute. Okay, that's good. Molly, can you check their feeder while you're doing that? Hey, it's cold. They need a whole feeder. They're empty? Yeah. What's crazy is that they are full. Because they're not so used to this stuff. They're good at that. Yeah, easy. They might want some.
Oh, we were going in the greenhouse. Oh, but these poor babies. Hi, darling. How are you guys? Still nothing, huh? Tempest confirmed. Still nothing out of these girls. I'm pretty sure that they were in heat where if I had bred them, they would have been due right on my anniversary. And so they're just going to be bred a little bit later in the month, which is fine. Well, we've hit green bean harvesting time of year. These are Kalima bush beans. I grew them last year. They didn't do super great. They're doing amazing this year. I take that back. The ones that I grew in the greenhouse didn't do super awesome, but I did have a patch over in my perennial garden and those did really great. And I have probably twice as many plants that seem to be super healthy, and so hopefully we'll get twice as many beans. Now, when it comes to harvesting beans, really, you can pick them at any size that you like. This is what I'm picking these beans at. These are like a French style bean, and so they are a little bit more long and tender and slender, and it's really all about preference. But I will say, if you wait a little bit too long to harvest your beans, the seed on the inside is going to swell, and kind of with that, the meaty part of the bean is going to get lost. It's like all the moisture that is in those seeds gets taken up using the outside meaty parts of the bean that we really like to eat, the nice tender part. So I'm gonna go ahead and go down all these plants. There's this 10-foot bed here and then an 8-foot bed down there, and get what I can. I'm gonna do this every other day during bean picking season. Sometimes the first harvest is a little slim, but look at all of the beans and flowers that are on here. We will be in the thick of it very, very soon. Today is Friday. We're going over to a friend's house for a barbecue on Memorial Day, and so I'll have one more harvest, which I'm pretty sure is going to be bigger, so maybe I'll be able to put together a cool bean salad for the barbecue. I think that will be fun. In the meantime, while I'm waiting, what I'm going to do is actually put these in a Ziploc bag and stick them in the fridge, and they'll stay good for quite a long time. Oh, but how can we say no to this face? Okay. Looks like you can't have more than one. No, it's slim pickings right now. These are mine. Margie, take it, baby. He's gonna steal it. All right, snooze you lose. Also, I just got a package in the mail that I have been anticipating. So we will do a package opening reveal so that you guys can see what these look like, because I actually don't know what to expect. Oh, how cute. They look good. I don't know why I'm sounding surprised by that. I'm thankful. I just got these off of Etsy. These are Maypops. I had tried to save my own seed from the Maypop vine that we had growing on the back field on our fence, and I did something wrong. None of the seeds germinated, so I don't know. But what this is it is a passion flower vine, the one that's native to the United States, Passiflora incarnata, and these fruits are so delicious, and the blooms are beautiful. The bees love them, and it's native. And I would like to get some of these established on this archway that's in here and just let them go wild for infinity. I'm hoping that these guys are used to at least a decent amount of sunlight. It's going to be sunny, I think maybe partly sunny tomorrow, and then we do have a few days of rain, and so they should transition just fine even if they aren't used to a lot of full sun. Plus, this part of the garden is shaded by some of the trees in our side yard, at least in the hottest parts of the afternoon, so I think that they'll be all right. They're definitely ready to get out of these start pots. They should not take long to absolutely take off. Good morning. We've got a little bit of a garden project to do today. We're gonna get some rain for the next few days. And the tomatoes are already really big. I've got them all staked. That's what all of this mess is here. But I know that when I've grown the Heatmaster Indeterminate tomato before, it's a bushy tomato. So like one stake, it'll holds up like the center of the plant, but it puts out these large beefy branches with big heavy clusters of fruit, and those are going to bend down if they're not supported, and the fruit's going to touch the ground and it's going to probably get rotten and ruined. And so I want to be able to do the method that I've used with this type of tomato before. It's called the Florida weave, and that's what these T-posts are for. This will all make sense once it is up, but I've got a supporting T-post on the end and in the center of these rows of tomatoes. I have 2 rows here. This one is a little bit harder to see because I didn't put any tomatoes here or right here right yet, but I'm going to be running the line this way and then removing these center stakes so that the tomatoes can be held up by the line. We've got our job supervisor here, so everything should go well. All right, so the tension on these lines, this is just a regular poly tomato twine. The tension is going to be held by these T-posts, and I have the little nubbins that are on the T-post facing out so that they can kind of catch the loop that I'm going to make and hold it where I want it. We do get a lot of winds here, and so I want everything to stay where I put it initially. So I have the twine. I have actually threaded it through this pipe. This is going to make sense why I did this in a little bit. It just makes it easier to weave this in and out, and I'm going to take my active end here and just tie it. Let's see, my smallest tomato is probably this one in this row, and I want to make sure that I catch it when I go down. So I'm going to put it where it's right in the middle of this little tomato here. See how the height of our string is going to go right in the middle of that tomato. That's good. That's what we want. So what I'm going to do is help myself by holding tension on this side of the pipe and use the pipe to help me weave around the tomato plants. So I'm essentially trying to trap the tomatoes in like a basket weave pattern. So I am going to be going like in and out, in front of and behind each tomato. So go in front of this one and then behind this one. If there was one here, I'd go in front of it, but there's not. So I'm actually just gonna skip it and go in front of this one. And right here is my middle support post. If I didn't have a post like this in the middle of this row of tomatoes, when the wind got to blowing, it would really blow and kind of bow over my wall of tomatoes, and this is gonna help prevent that. So I want to make sure that I go around this pole a couple of times so that it will hold the tension and won't loosen up. So 1, 2, we'll go for 3 for good measure. And there's a good amount of tension on this side. If there wasn't, we could always kind of pull on this and tighten it up. But it's good and tight. All right, now that I've reached the end of the row here, I'm gonna make sure I've got the tension on it. And we are gonna go back through the row in the opposite direction. So you know how we were going, in front, behind, in front, behind. I want to sandwich the tomato plant with the weave. So on the next pass that I do back down the row, I've gone in front of the tomato here, and now I'm gonna go behind it just so it's squished in there and held nicely. It's not squished like it's gonna break, but it's gonna support it. But first I need to do a few wraps to hold tension. All right, so with this tomato, I've gone in front of it here. I'm gonna go behind it now and then cross. Whew. All the way down. All right, now we're back where we started with our tomato row. I do have to add a little bit of tension here. So I'm just grabbing the line that I want to make tension on and pulling that tension and then kind of securing it around the T-post. Okay, with this tomato here, you can really tell what's going on. We've got one line going on one side and one line going on the other, and this line can now support this tomato. There we go. Same thing here. Supported tomato. And as these plants grow, you can see I've got this arm that comes up. I can thread them into the weave and have each little arm or sucker also be supported by the twine. I want to do this about every 8 inches or so of growth, and so it's because some of the tomatoes down the row are quite a bit taller, I am going to do another line. It's going to be above this guy, but that's fine. When this one gets big enough, I'll just weave it through. Now, one thing that I like to do, even with, and maybe especially with my determinate tomato plants, is some pruning. I know that they say maybe you shouldn't prune your determinate tomatoes. I think you should. There's this fear that you're not going to get as much fruit, and what you want to do when pruning them is prune for airflow. You don't want to prune off the productive parts of the plant, but you can prune off some of what I call the sun leaves, where these guys don't have any flower clusters on them. They're not going to have any flower clusters on them, and they're just going to be, this one in particular is touching the ground, kind of bogging down the plant, restricting airflow, and that's going to promote disease. So I'm actually going to chop that all the way off. I'll show you what I'm doing here in just a second. There we go. That looks a lot better. A lot more room for airflow, and this is going to have a plant that lasts longer into the season so we can get more fruit. So you can see the difference between this determinate tomato plant here and this determinate tomato plant here. This one has a lot more airflow, and the important part is they both have an equal amount of productive parts of the plant on them. And what you can see here, especially right there, so you can see that there is a part of the tomato plant that comes straight out, like perpendicular to the stem, and this is what I call the sun leaf. It's low on the plant, it's touching the ground. I want to take this off, but this here in the leaf node, this is a sucker, and on determinate plants we like to leave these because these are the parts of the plant that are actually going to be producing fruit. We can see this better here. This is a sucker. I did take off the lower leaf on this one, but you can look at the end and see that there are small, but they're there, little flower clusters. So I want to leave that. That's where our fruit is coming from. But I can take off like this leaf here. This here is the productive part of the plant right there, and then this is not. This is just kind of bogging things down. So I'm going to take that leaf out. We've left the sucker, which is the productive part of the plant. And then we'll take this leaf off. Just the leaf. And then we've left the productive part of the plant. You see this guy here sticking out from our trellising system. There will be a fruit cluster on this eventually that will weigh this whole branch down. It could break the branch, and then the fruit touching the ground is not going to be a good thing for our fruit. There's going to be bugs in it instantly. So I'm going to try to not break it and just weave it into our trellising system here. And then it will grow up into the trellis and stay off the ground, and the trellis will help support the fruit weight. And there we go. And this plant is now pruned. Now, as you can see, I didn't take off all of the sun leaves. These actually are important to shade your fruit so they don't get sun scald, but you also don't want your plant to not have enough airflow. It's more about balance, and I wouldn't worry too much about it. Just snip here and there, whatever looks good, and you'll get the feel of it. Good afternoon. So as you saw, it is a cheese making day. What I've made is a Colby cheese with some of our onion greens mixed in. Colby cheese only has to age for anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, so I get to try that one sooner than the onion cheddar that I made recently. But in my pot, I have some elderflower cordial. And in case you're wondering, I do have videos on the bread that I make, on the cheese that I make, and on this elderflower cordial. So if you want to see step-by-step on any of these processes, check those out. They're in the description box. But this cordial has been steeping for 24 hours at this point, and I've got to strain it out. So here we have the elderflowers in the syrup. We're going to strain out the elderflowers. And then this isn't expressly allowed. It is rebel canning, but because this is so high acid, it has citric acid and lemon juice in it, quite a lot of it, I am going to can this up. Over here you can see that I have already canned up some elderflower cordial. Elderflower season is a short season, and I want to make sure that I get the elderflowers when they're at their peak so that the elderflower cordial is at its best. They say that you can use elderflowers a lot like you would use elderberries as far as like medicinal properties. I'm not really sure about that. I just know that they're delicious. The way that I use elderflower cordial most often is in drinks. So in the summertime, I'll put it in cool water, and in the wintertime, I'll put it in warm water, about a little bit like this at the bottom of a pint jar, and then fill the rest up with water. It is so delicious. And when I put the elderflower cordial in something like kefir to flavor the kefir, it tastes like a melted frosted lemonade from Chick-fil-A. It's really good. So I'm just gonna strain out the flowers. I could pour the whole thing in, but I know myself, so we should probably go in steps so we make a minimal mess. This is a lot of sugar. It's like 5 pounds of sugar in here, so it would be a very sticky mess. I do want to heat this back up so that when I fill my jars and then put my jars in the canner, my jars don't break. So I'm cheese making, I'm doing a little bit of canning. I'm going to show you how I throw together a pretty good dinner amidst a lot of kitchen chaos. What I have here is some thawed out pork sausage from some Kuni pigs that we had processed almost 2 years ago now. It'll be 2 years in October, so I guess it's about a year and a half ago now. I've got a lot of these left. I think I have a roast left. I have some ribs and some ground pork, but we're getting low on our pork. It is about that time. I've got the oven set, or preheating to 350. And these only take about 15 minutes to get cooked all the way through. I'm just putting them on a single layer here. Nothing fancy. I've got this cute little rice cooker here that's a perfect size for our family if I don't want to have leftovers. And I don't. I'm not that great at eating or serving leftovers. So if we can eat a meal all the way down, that's good. That's gold. 1 quart of bone broth, a liberal amount of farm dust seasoning or any all-purpose seasoning of your choice. Maybe a little green onion powder, because that's gonna be the theme for some time with all the onions that I've got going. 2 cups of rice. I did just snag this out of the bread flour bin, and I'll probably put it right back in the bread flour bin when I'm done. Give it a stir. Get that going. I just gave my elderflower cordial pot a rinse because I'm just going to reuse that as well. Some bacon fat in the pan. We're still bringing in a good amount of asparagus, and then I picked these 2 surprise squash today. No! Did you see that?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No.
That power flicker?
Yeah, I see that the TV's off.
Don't do it. The canner has 10 minutes left.
Oh god, so close.
It might hold steam if the power happens to go out. But my rice cooker won't work.
The Blue Eddy would do it.
The Blue Eddy would run the rice cooker, do you think?
Yeah.
I want to test it.
What's a Blue Eddy?
Sometimes we can keep power through the worst storms, and I don't understand how. There's nothing going on right now. It's cloudy outside, but it wouldn't shock me if we just randomly lost power, because it happens. Levi's gonna get he's got like a Milwaukee power plug thing. We're gonna see if it'll actually run the rice cooker. That would be nice to know ahead of time before we end up needing it.
When you plugged the
My milker?
milker in, did you turn the plug on?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
It does run it. That's so funny. Wait. No, it doesn't.
Oh, yeah, it's just throwing an error code.
Darn. Maybe that's what the Blue Eddy would do too. The Blue Eddy runs my computer when the power goes out. I didn't know that. Let's see.
It's probably gonna run.
You think it'll run this? Levi's got high hopes. I kind of do. I'm a little bit pessimistic for some reason. Okay. Yep. 369 watts. I think it'll do up to 800. So the Blue Eddy will run my rice cooker, honey, if we ever need it. Sometimes it's about simple comforts, am I right? There we go. This is what I call Homestead Conglomerate, and it can look a lot of different ways. A lot of times when you're working with ingredients only, it can be a little bit intimidating trying to find just already done recipes for what you might have on hand. But really, when you're growing your own food, what is fresh can change day to day. You can't, maybe in like the heat of the harvest season when you know you've got a lot coming in, or in the middle of winter when you know what's in the pantry, it might be easier to meal plan. But sometimes when you're kind of mid-season, it's a little bit harder. And so when you're kind of flying by the seat of your pants, having busy days, this kind of thing works really well. This is actually a pretty good sized cheese. And it smells good. I feel like towards the end of basically all of these weekly vlogs, this is what we're doing. We're unmolding a cheese. Ah, but 'tis the season. I had shown this cloche in a vlog recently and people asked where I got it. I don't necessarily recommend it. I paid way too much for this on Amazon and it showed up looking like it had a value far less than what I paid for it, but I decided to use it anyway. But I will say that fruit flies can get through this mesh, and so I'm still having to use some butter muslin to cover it anyway, but that's all right. There we go. Ooh, does this fit? Ooh, I think this cheese doesn't actually fit under here. Well, it doesn't work anyway if you have a bigger cheese going on. Good problems, I guess. Anyway, I have a lot of housework to catch up on. Today really needs to be a kitchen cleaning day. So I'm going to go ahead and end this vlog here. I'll see you guys again soon.